So, Irving, what do we got going on tonight? I know we have a
Oh,
topic here. What's the topic?
The topic is why addicts struggle in early recovery. And I thought we might we'll have a conversation about that tonight, especially because, the 4th of July is coming up. It's a holiday season. And, sometimes it's good for people and they have good memories. And some people have bad memories. Maybe they have, families that were not too nice to them. And maybe, the old memories are dredged up and, there's feelings of isolation and loneliness that people experience. Maybe not everybody has a good social network, and people in early recovery might have unrealistic expectations of what to expect. And, that might be worth talking about, like what leads people to relapse in early recovery.
All those things that you just said, I feel like sometimes I have now. Sometimes I still have loneliness. Sometimes I still have unrealistic expectations. So what makes it about me now that's able to handle that better than I was when I was in early recovery?
Well, I'm going to ask you that question. What makes things different for you now? What's the shift that took place?
What's the shift? I mean, I have coping mechanisms now. I mean, that's what I have now that's different than what was in early recovery.
Okay, so you have coping mechanisms, and you have
Support. Yep, support.
Right, you have people that you can call. You have some people meditate. Some people do exercise. They go to the gym. They get out and do things. I always tell people to, like when you're in your head, that's the worst place to be. Mm-hmm. Negative thinking leads to a lot of negative behaviors. And once you get out and you do positive things, then it becomes very reinforcing over time.
It's like the move a muscle, change a thought.
Exactly. But, a lot of people can't get going. I mean, they're kind of like entrenched in their own stuff. And I think especially in early recovery, people have maybe unrealistic expectations about what it's going to be like. They think it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be great.
It's just another day for me.
Just another day.
Yeah.
What is?
Any holiday anymore.
Right.
Except that I dress up. I like to dress up. Even.
How do you dress up?
Oh, this year I'm wearing a red.
Miss Liberty?
Well, kind of.
With the torch and.
Well, almost a red tutu and a sparkly big crown.
Send me a picture of that.
But okay, but then I wonder if it's I don't know, because even before, when I stopped tending bar and going out a lot, I was just kind of isolating at home. I would say, it's just another day. My birthday's just another day. Oh, it's Christmas, just another day. And I still do that. And it makes me wonder sometimes if I am isolating? Is it really a big day for me and I just don't get it? I overthink all the time, and I analyze every little thing and wonder why I think what I think. And so I'm trying to think.
I'm trying to think what nothing happens.
Okay, so but then, bird brain.
Wow,
I love it. But I was thinking today about how I always was like, my parents, blah blah, because we never went on vacation or anything. But I was thinking today about how my mother and dad would take all 6 of us kids to see the fireworks in downtown St. Petersburg, and the traffic and this and that. And then I started thinking about them taking us to see all the Christmas lights.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
I'm not sure if I'm more impressed that your dad had 6 kids and was able to handle all that, or that you were thinking today.
And he didn't drink. Well, not my stuff. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah. My biological father drank, but never mind. Yeah, I know.
Tell us about your dad.
My dad, he's Jewish. His name is Cy Blumberg.
Ah.
Yes.
Nice.
He's my stepdad. He died.
And that was a glimpse into Lisa's life.
No, I guess what I'm saying is that it's not. I'm going to be doing something with the clients that night, and I'm excited for them. Mm-hmm. I too have gotten tools, and I don't think about it as a party thing or anything. I'm just like, yay!
Right.
Cover my bird so she doesn't get scared, and I won't good.
So James, I mean, early in recovery, were holidays tough for you?
Oh, were they watching me, Blake?
Were holidays tough for you?
Holidays tough. No, I'm in a unique situation though, where whenever my parents, my father lives in Tampa now, my mother in Orlando. I have some family here in Kentucky, but we really don't get together. Like for us, it's never mattered what day it is. Like they'll call you on your birthday, right? But when my parents are in town, we'll all meet up and we'll have everybody's birthday dinner or everybody's Christmas all at one time. It maybe exchange a gift or two, whatever. But it's never been a big deal for me being on that exact day. Good luck explaining that to Elena, though, where I'm like, okay, your birthday's on a Monday, our schedule's packed, let's celebrate it next week. It don't work like that with her. But the holidays, they really haven't bothered me. They actually let us go out to, we have a big event here in Louisville called Thunder Over Louisville. A huge fireworks show, everybody down on the waterfront, everybody drunk. And the only place is right there on the waterfront. They actually let us go to it while we were in early recovery. The kind of the idea was if you're going to go out and get drunk now, you're going to go out and get drunk on your own this weekend anyway. So go ahead, But I think the thing for me, the difference now, and when I went to some fellowship meetings before I was court ordered, right? I was court ordered in the past. I went to those meetings. I sat in them. I didn't really absorb anything. I definitely did not get a sponsor and do any step work. And the thing for me that's different this time, whenever I came out on the other side, actually doing the step work and removing resentments, because y'all know how it is. You can lay there in bed and stay awake all night, reprocessing all of the stuff you've done, the arguments with your parents, the money. How are you going to get this X, Y, Z tomorrow? How am I going to survive tomorrow? I need another shot, whatever. That constant chase. Whenever I did my 9th step amends, and I turned down all of that volume in my head, I didn't have a bunch of negativity to lay around and process all the time. That was the game changer for me, getting that BS out of my head. And then, of course, we work a 10th step daily, right? Because stuff still happens that you end up over processing. And then we use a 10th step daily to quiet that noise. And that was the game changer for me this time.
Okay, I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, and it shows how the steps helped you in your life, man.
Yeah, but as far as holidays or using an early recovery, if you haven't gone through that process of a behavior change and a thinking process has changed, of course I can lie to myself. The literature calls it the peculiar mental twist. I can say, oh, I'm going to this party tonight because my cousin's there and I haven't seen my cousin in forever. See, that's a lie. I can drive over and see my cousin at his house any given day, but all of a sudden when this party comes up, I really want to see my cousin. So, I'm dealing with a family. Go ahead.
That's what I was thinking, too, for myself. Holidays were never tough for me, but I know they're tough for a lot of people, and especially the holiday season can be really tough because it's time with family and this and that. But it was never tough for me because every day was an excuse to party. I didn't need a holiday to give me a reason to party. I every day was a party. Every day that ended in Y, there was a good reason to drink.
It's a good way to walk into a reservation for me, though. You know what I mean? Like the holiday wasn't that big a deal, but a good reason to walk into a reservation. I remember being on probation and smoking weed because it was New Year. I was like, well, it's New Year's. Of course I'm going to do this. I'll just drink water and flush myself out so I can pass the drug test. Whatever. It was a good reason or an excuse, if you will, to walk into a reservation, if that makes sense.
And I think that's exactly what it is an excuse. And I think even people being bummed out that they can't drink or use drugs on these holidays is that they were just searching for an excuse or searching for a reason to have a pity party, almost, in a sense. Like it's I can't drink and it's going to be such a bad day. And
I don't see how I'm going to make it through this day.
When, none of these actual days, these holidays were started to party on. Like, if you really think about what St. Patrick's Day is, it was like the St. Patrick's Massacre or whatever. And then there's Christmas. Beer. Yeah, green beer. All of a sudden it turns into green beer. Or Christmas, it's the birth of Christ, right? And now it turned into
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day. Somehow that's an excuse.
We go shopping.
Yeah, Memorial Day. It's an excuse to barbecue and drink beer. There's always an excuse.
It's cold on Christmas, so you drink bourbon. Where I'm at, that's a good reason to grab a bottle of bourbon and chill by the fire. That's what you do on Christmas up here. But that thing about the peculiar mental twist, the lying to yourself. I need to go to this party to see my cousin. I'm dealing with somebody right now that's in South Florida that's doing very well. Went to a facility down there, and this person came back to Kentucky, maybe a month ago, and did whatever. Went back to Florida. Now we're getting the phone calls like, I need to come back. I miss you guys. I miss the girls. I miss the family. I need to get out of here. Well, really, that's all BS. That's a peculiar mental twist, lying. Because this person was here a month ago for a couple of days and didn't even call us, didn't stop by. If you miss the kids and stuff so much, why didn't you come by? The truth is, I believe some people are following the peculiar mental twist. They're believing their own lies. And this person wants to leave the recovery community this person is in so they can come up here and be around old people, places, and things. That's what I believe. But, I've done it before is the only reason I recognize it.
Yeah, I think as addicts and alcoholics, like we do a very good job of rationalizing any situation and turning it into an excuse to use drugs or alcohol, even if we aren't transparent about that excuse. That we disguise it as wanting to see family, or that we have to go home and work so we can pay bills, or we have to go do this or do that. We disguise our cravings as something else, and
Sure.
we truly rationalize it to think that we really do want to go home to go pay bills, or we really miss our mom that bad that we have to get home right now. But we know in our subconscious that we're trying to go home and get high.
I was just going to ask that
Well,
question.
what about changing the words to fit what you want to do? Like, I can't leave my job. Okay, what do you do for a living? I wait tables. Well, those are a dime a dozen. What do you mean you can't leave? I can't leave my job. What am I going to do for money? And I always tell them, switch the words around. You mean you won't leave your job to go get better. It's okay to nod off the table while you're on heroin, but God forbid you leave for 30 days and come back just to separate yourself from the drugs and alcohol. So, I used to do the same thing. That changing of the words, believing the peculiar mental twist, and just lying. The big one, I can't leave my kids. Even the people that I speak to that have a family member that will watch their kids, they go, I can't do it. I absolutely can't do it. I can't leave them. I say, you're not leaving them. You'll be back in 4 weeks. What do you mean? And, so it's evident. It's evident on every phone call I take.
So what are some other reasons addicts struggle in early recovery? Like in Irving, in your opinion?
Well, there's a number of reasons. I mean, one of them is like being around other people who use.
So you mean like if I'm in early recovery, say I'm in my... first of all, let's go here. What are we considering early recovery?
Well, I think that might be a self-definition, because I've heard people say early recovery is up to 1 year. Some people will consider it 2 years. I mean, it's hard to say, but and there are people that are just out of rehab, and they're clean, but their thinking is still kind of warped and
okay.
That can happen at any time.
Of course,
so if
it
they
can
don't do
happen.
the steps, they're still in early recovery, in my opinion, even at a couple years sober.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, the triggers can be there, but the thing is, I mean, would you think that maybe people in the very early stages of recovery are like most vulnerable? Like they want to get into a relationship, they want to kind of like relive, or kind of
They're all better, and they think they can do things all over again.
Right. They're not really fully healed, and yet they're going into relationships that maybe are kind of reenactments of what they used to do, and maybe trying to fill some needs that have not been met yet. And I think that I see with my clients, for example, like they can offer all kinds of, I guess, like James has alluded to the fact that people can basically justify, and Blake, you mentioned that as well. You can justify pretty much any kind of behavior that you want to, if you have the opportunity to do so. But the thing is, you need to have a support system, and you need to get out of your head and do things. I think that's the best way in early recovery to overcome the urge to use. And of course, granted, there are people can be clean for 27 years, and I've known some people like that, and then all of a sudden something happens, they use, and maybe they stop using a program or whatever, or maybe whatever.
Right.
But the thing to me is, like, do you get back on the horse? Like, is it a relapse or it is a lapse? I mean, do you like call a friend? Do you go to a meeting? Do you start working on the steps? Do you get back to the grind? You're talking about boredom and restlessness. I mean, that can be a big trigger for people. But what about going the other end? What about people that, like are financially strapped? They need a job, or they want to go back to their careers, and they're not ready. Their stress level is just is not ready to handle it.
But they think they're ready.
Willpower.
They think they're ready because now they've stopped doing whatever their drugs
They're
or their
clean.
alcohol.
They're clean,
And they
right.
think now they can take on the world. I was one of those people.
Yeah.
I was years ago.
Yeah. So you go back to the grind.
Well, I quit drinking. I was going to meetings. I wasn't working the stops, but I was surrounded by people that were in recovery. I was working at a 5-star resort and bartending. And then I got a promotion. Then I went and got a second job. Then I went and started to go to school, and I did it. But, I had never really done all those things. I was such a mess up for the latter part of my
life, yeah.
teenagers. And I was 30 at the time, and I just thought I had a little baby. My son was 5 months old, and I just went with it, and I was working. One of my jobs was bartending in a strip club 2 nights a week, and I wasn't drinking. I was bartending. I wasn't. And but I wasn't drinking or anything, and I'm like, I got this.
But you know what?
I got this, and I did it.
With what you're talking about, and I think James would agree with, a lot of people want to rush back to work. They're so anxious to get their life back on the road, and they're not giving their recovery enough time. And I'm not really sure why that is. It's people are just in such a rush, like they want to brush under the rug. Like, all right, it's my addiction is done and over with. I went to rehab. I got to get home in 30 days. It's done. Let's just pretend like it never happened. I'll get right back to work.
Because they don't believe they don't know their addiction. They don't know they have an addiction. They're told that, but they don't get it.
And
Well,
people,
even the ones that know they have it, it still happens to. That you believe something's wrong with you. But that one, I forget the comedian's name. He says alcoholics or addicts are the only people in the world that'll find something that works and stop doing it.
Yeah.
And that's the case. And then I believe it comes down to what Blake was saying. He's not sure why people need to rush back to their job and rush back to that. Well, the literature describes us 3 instincts: social, security, and sexual instinct. And that is self. And we're constantly trying to fulfill self. We have ambitions for those areas. We want to be socially cool. You need, at least in my mind, you need money to be socially cool. You need a nice car to be socially cool. You need to be able to pay to go out to eat dinner. So therefore, you want to rush back to your job. Your security instinct, you want to take care of your family. You want to go earn that money so you can provide a home for your kids. And, of course, you want to attract a member of the same or opposite sex, whatever you're into, and fulfill a sexual instinct. You want all of this stuff, and there's a rush to fill those instincts.
right?
And when they don't get fulfilled, failed instinct fulfillment is a resentment. So if you don't continue to work a recovery program, how are you going to deal with the resentments as they come along? Like, oh, I'm about to get this job that pays $30 an hour. Well, then you don't get it. You hedge everything on the $30 an hour, and you don't get it, and you end up working for $9 an hour at first. I can see where, if you don't have a recovery program about you to handle that resentment, you can feel worthless. You can feel like you're not being a family man, and you can feel like you're not going to attract a sexual partner, if that makes sense.
Makes lots of sense.
Makes lots of sense. And you know what I was thinking about too, about being around others in early recovery, others that are using drugs and alcohol still. You mentioned earlier as being a struggle. And I think people rush to go do that too. It's like they have some friends who are in recovery that are going to a bar one night and they're on, I don't know, let's say this person has 45 days clean and sober. And a lot of their friends who aren't in recovery are going to a bar some night and they want to tempt themselves and they want to just say, I can do this. You know what? I can go. And they don't think about their recovery first and they go to a bar too soon, which can lead to a lot of struggling and cravings and stuff. People forget that these bars are going to be there forever. All of this stuff's going to be there forever. But until you have a good foundation in your recovery, why push yourself more than you have to?
It's fulfillment of the social instinct. You want to be out and be social. Look at me. I'm back out in public. I'm better now. I'm able to come hang out with the normal people because I can afford it. All of that stuff that goes on in your head. It's important that I show up. Like in Kentucky, here in my town, Catholic picnics are a big thing. Once a month, a different Catholic school or church has a big picnic where everybody hangs out. It's like the social gathering of that small town.
I saw one of those when I was there.
Exactly. And I
Casino.
lean back out to those Catholic picnics because that's where everybody is. That's where everybody's hanging out and being social. And I want to pop back up on that scene. Like, look, I'm not a loser job. See what I mean? I'm standing right here. I have nice clothes on. I have a good job, and I have money, and I want to show it off to you.
Yeah,
That's
but
the
you know
way-
what?
That was me.
It is definitely a social phenomenon, and I think it's also physiological because I think your brain is going through a state of repair. It's been damaged by drugs and alcohol, by these substances that have taken over the natural chemicals in your body and your brain, and you need time to heal. It's just like when you go to the hospital, and you have to spend a few days, and then you go home and you have to recuperate. And if you go right back into the swing of things, you don't heal. So you've got to heal yourself first, and then you can get into the relationships. You feel healthy. You know who you are. You have certainty about what it is you're looking for. But people that want to go like full speed ahead, you're right. I mean, they really sabotage their recovery.
You know what? Recovery is not hard. And I think a lot of people have that fallacy that recovery is difficult. Recovery is not difficult. Recovery is slow, though. The process of recovery is very slow. And that's where it gets hard for people.
Got to slow it down.
Exactly.
Your ambitions to fulfill your three instincts are not slow.
Right.
Like, we all want to raise sooner. We all want to buy a new car right now. Everybody would love to move into a little bit bigger house with a swimming pool or something. The instincts are not slow. And then your ambition to feed those instincts are not slow. I think that, like Irving was just saying, everybody says that whenever you start using at age 15, you stop developing emotionally, psychologically at age 15. So you make it to age 35, then you get 60 days clean and go to the Catholic picnic. You have the mentality of a 15-year-old walking around a bunch of drunk people partying. That comes back to the time thing. So your brain, like you said, you haven't had time to heal. You're stuck at 15 years old still. 60 days is not going to fix it.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so hard to get through to people, though. It's so hard to get through that it takes time. They
'Cause
want it.
patience-
I was that person.
I just don't think patience comes that easy to people. It takes we're so used to instant gratification, especially today. We're so used to it. So to have to wait for something, it's hard for us too to see the changes in ourselves because it's such a long process and it takes so long for us to change and to become this new blossoming person in recovery. It takes a long time and we don't notice the changes day after day. So we get frustrated.
Well, you know what?
It takes practice to change too. That's why the maintenance steps are there. It takes practice to change because you can go through a treatment facility or whatever, and you can go sit in some meetings. Like I'll talk about my videos about going to math class, but still failing math. I sat in every class because I was required to, or a truancy officer will visit you. But I sat in every class and I still failed. You can sit there for 5 years, dry, and still not heal properly and still not make good decisions. That's what the practice these principles. So it takes practice over time too. You're going to walk out and hit your head against the wall.
You can say the right things, but you really have to follow through with it. I mean, there's a lot of people that go through the recovery process and they go to rehab and they know all the answers and they've read all the literature and they can repeat it backwards, left, right, up, and down.
Those people are scary.
Recovery
Some
smart.
of them.
That's called recovery smart.
Right. Right. Sometimes they just move them from one bad place to another. They kind of just dump them over to somebody else, and they get some other kid that's not really working the recovery, and they're just like kind of passing them along. Yeah. And then eventually, like we've heard stories here down in South Florida, we've literally dumped these kids out on the street. They've just given up on them, and then they ended up like overdosing and dying.
And they talk about in this Megyn Kelly interview, there's people who get dumped out on the streets. There was this one girl, her job for a treatment center, which she was getting paid per person, which is illegal. Her job was to go around and look for people walking around Del Rey with their suitcases. Because then she said, "Hey, do you got insurance? Here, come with me." And you know what? Honestly, right now, I would tell most of America. I would also advise most of America to not come to treatment down to South Florida. Right. Don't send your kids down here if you are not educated on the right questions to ask.
Correct.
If you do not know anything about treatment centers, don't send your kids down here because you will get sold on a bill of goods, basically. So unless you educate yourself first.
You could just contact Blake or myself, and we'd be happy to walk you through that also.
Sure.
I'm just saying. I mean,
no, you're right.
You got to be careful of marketing funnels, right, that don't have the person's name on them, like Universal Addiction, and it's a Facebook page, right, and it doesn't have anyone's name on it. You have to be careful with that because who's behind it running it, right? Now, of course, Blake and I, our names, phone numbers, emails, and live video feeds of us. It is who we are who we say we are, right there publicly on the page and on the radio, right? But if it's just some random thing you stumble across on Facebook, you better start asking some questions. And I'm happy to answer those questions, and I'm happy to point you to other people that don't work for my facility to answer similar questions.
People are so quick to jump.
Find your way.
People are so quick to jump to the fact, like, the first question I guarantee you call most of these treatment centers, the first question they're going to ask you is, what type of insurance do you have? Mm-hmm. And if you give them a PPO policy, right off the bat, they're going to say, you've been accepted in our beautiful treatment center. And the person doesn't even ask another question. They just say, oh, my God, are you serious? My insurance covers? When can I get down there? Well, here, I'll get you a ticket right now. You can come down right here today. And they fly down right away without asking any questions.
There's no intake.
There's no intake process. Then they'll do just a quick, oh, what have you been using? Oh, great. How long? And then they get the person right down here right away where there's really no questions. There was no intake process. And the person is just so happy that their insurance covers that they don't even think about why they're going. They just know they're getting a free trip to Florida.
Well, who wouldn't want to come down here? I mean, we've got beautiful beaches. It's warm all year round. You have a pool close by. I mean, you have all these amenities, but I don't know. Maybe the answer is like not to come down. I hate to say it, but maybe not to come down to South Florida. Maybe to go to Alaska or someplace that's a little more challenging. Like if you really want to work your recovery, go to Utah. Yeah.
I went to Minnesota for treatment.
I got to say, man, you got to think if you're going to send somebody to New Jersey, let me tell you this. There's a wonderful treatment facility in New Jersey that you can go to, and I'm sure right around the block there's an absolute dump that you could get roped into. So I don't know that education is the answer, not physical location, like
Correct.
You're saying.
Yep.
Even Alaska, you're going to find somebody, that'll ring you out.
But the point is, people are lured by South Florida. Yeah. They're lured by the heat. They're lured by this image of being able to wallow by the pool or go to the beach and just relax.
And I don't know how to say this, but it seems to me a lot of the people that I've met are from the Northeast, and they have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. A lot of the kids, or not even the kids, that their parents have sent them down, and they're sending them to these treatment centers that cost crazy amounts of money. Crazy amounts of money.
It's a big business. It's a big business. Mm-hmm. You know what, Megyn Kelly, if I can speak to Megyn Kelly directly, and I will hope you guys channel her right now. Megyn Kelly, why don't you do a piece? I challenge you. Why don't you do a piece on educating America on the right questions to ask? As opposed to condemning a certain area of this country, why don't you take 11 minutes like you did for South Florida where you bashed us to death? Why don't you take 11 minutes and you educate America on what are the right questions to ask when you are seeking treatment? What does good treatment look like? Why don't you show people that so people can actually start getting better instead of just being so concerned about, well, if I can't go to South Florida, if I can't go here, if I can't go there, I'm never going to get better. Because all you're doing by putting out articles and clips like that is you're making people want to stay home more and you're keeping them sick longer. So why don't you educate people on how to get help and what good help looks like?
Right.
Right.
I'm sorry. I kind of my little current event or whatever kind of took over this segment right here, but it's been a good conversation though.
Yeah.
I got to say. But one thing that I like the difference in what we do, or at least what I do. Blake works in admissions. I am in outreach. So I like the thing is, I'm not a big fan of call centers, right? So you see a number flash by on the internet or on the screen, call this number. The person you're talking to on the other end of the line is an operator. They don't know and have not walked the hallways of the facility that they're going to send you through. It's these places that sell bulk information.
Yeah.
So they'll say, "Here, I'll give you 500 phone numbers a month for X amount of dollars, or I'll give you, whatever the package you buy looks at, and all these phone numbers roll in, and they pay for them." Now, I mean, I'm not saying there's anything that anybody's doing anything exactly wrong. I'm not a fan of it. You can talk directly to me. I've walked the hallways of that treatment facility, and I'm in recovery. I know. I feel like I know what I'm talking about.
I have no problem saying those people are doing something wrong because they're placing people. They have no clinical background, and they're placing people based on best fit, which is a total lie. They're just lying to the person who's calling in and pretending like they know what they're talking about because they're getting paid to send that person to this treatment center.
And it's individualized treatment, and it's very unique.
Yeah, they always have the same spiel for every single place that they're sending it to, and you seem like you'd be a great fit there. Well, you just happen to call between the hours of 9 and 9:30 where we're sending all of our patients to, fill in the blank.
Right, exactly. So my bit of advice for everybody that's listening, that's curious about that or wanting to send your kids to treatment, ask a lot of questions, absolutely. Follow up. Ask other people about that place. Blake scholarshiped a young lady the other day. You know who I'm talking about. I don't want to say her name, Blake, but she's coming from Kentucky up here by me. And when she contacted me, she had already contacted a couple of other places, didn't like them, reached out to you and myself. And then she started asking other people about you, asking other people about me, what their experiences were. I saw the comments online.
Yeah.
And she did her research while she was sitting there in the house, and she declined 3 other places that she could have went to. And but as it turns out, her insurance did not fit, but Blake scholarshiped her anyway, which was awesome. And, but she did her research. And doing your research, knowing who you're talking to, as opposed to just, hey, a phone number popped up on television, let's call them and just go with what they say.
I think that's out of desperation a lot of times.
I used to be an addict.
Yeah, it's a survival instinct.
I used to be an addict.
I used to be an addict.
It's like any program is better than no program, right?
No.
It's not true.
You got to think, though, whenever somebody is living in fear, the ultimate fear of finding their child dead in the other room. I know people that go in and check their kid's pulse in the middle of the night just to make sure they're still breathing. You know what I mean? They're like, well, I have to go in there and put my hand on their chest and make sure they're still breathing. Of course, whenever the kid decides to go or whatever, and a option pops up and it's like, okay, you can go to detox right now and go here and we're going to help you. That survival instinct of, if I wait any longer, I might walk in the other room and they'd be dead. That kicks in. You know what I mean? That survival instinct kicks in, I believe.
Yeah,
I was scholarshiped to mine.
Yeah.
I would send anybody there. We don't turn people away. People can't pay their rent. We've had a few people relapse. And we give them another chance. We give them another chance. We bring them back,
I think that's
give
important
them a little
that
bit
you
more.
give people a little leeway, I mean, this idea of just like dumping people out because
They never would
they
do that.
violated 1 or 2 rules. I mean, unless they burn the place down, of course. But, we're dealing with people that are not quite in the state of recovery. They're still addicts. They're still thinking like addicts. Their brain is not operating according to optimal standards. And we have to understand that.
James, I like what you were saying about the person that we were just talking about, that she did her research even for a scholarship. And I think there's a lot of people out there who don't even do that. They hear scholarship and they just run with it thinking they're going to end up at a good place. When they end up getting there, then the treatment center ends up buying them an insurance policy and they end up in the Delray system somehow.
Wow.
Which,
that's another thing they should educate people on. It's like if someone says, hey, if you move across state lines, then that's a qualifying event to buy insurance. Let's move you into our apartment complex over here and call it your new address so we can then buy you insurance. That is insurance fraud. That's healthcare fraud.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to take part of that. Because I've spoke to people on the phone, Blake, that were so excited. They're like, oh, they're taking care of me. They're actually going to make sure I have money. They're getting me an insurance policy because I'm going to work for their company. And I'm like, whoa. They're all going to prison. If you make it through that facility, you're all going to prison. Don't do that.
And that's oh my God, you're getting me so frustrated here. But Yeah, I seriously, I this conversation, like, it drives me nuts. And that's the problem, and what makes me crazy is they act like they're doing people a favor. They act like, well, here's what I'm gonna do for you. I'm gonna buy you an insurance policy. I'm gonna give you these gift cards. I'm gonna buy you this, and you just gotta come and stay at our facility. And like they're doing them a favor. I talked about it here on the air. Evolutions, where I work, our first review that wasn't 5-star was a 1-star review from a guy who was mad at us because we wouldn't buy him things. And he said, this other place that I was going to go to was going to buy me all these things. You guys obviously don't care about people. I'm like, no, that's illegal. You can't do that. And they're just getting you to come there because you're buying them stuff.
And we've talked about that before, Blake, where we've been on the phone. You've experienced it. I've experienced it, where you feel like you're the one being interviewed. Well, you know what I mean? Like, am I allowed to bring my tablet? Can I sit by the pool during, like when we're on lunch or whatever? Can I go out by the pool and surf the tablet? And then you're like, no, you can't have your tablet or your phone in there. They're like, well, I think this other place is better suited for me. And they'll go out and find one that does. But, having a phone and a tablet can turn a treatment facility into a trap house real quick.
There was an ad, or I guess that's what you call it, on Facebook a couple weeks ago, and it was just that. It was a very high-end treatment center, and their pull, I guess, is what you would say, was you can bring your tablets in, you can bring your phones, you can bring all this stuff.
And you can get high right as soon as you leave.
No, and it was like this huge mansion place, I can't remember the reasoning behind it, but that's the first thing you saw before you clicked to read the entire article, was that you can bring all this stuff.
Well, there was a story on the news about a prison where you can actually upgrade your prison cell.
Really?
I mean, yeah, you can actually buy yourself a $200 a day room.
That's nice.
A room and board, and you have access to all the videos you want to watch and cable TV, and it's. I think it sounds like a great system.
I wouldn't mind going. You don't have to bother with anybody. You don't have to work. You just got to pay for that.
That's right.
The reason I was bringing up the scholarship thing, by the way, because somebody reached out to me the other day saying that they ended up leaving early after being in a treatment center for a week, that they were there for a scholarship because the place was just so poorly ran. They couldn't even stay there anymore. And they had to get out of there. And it's a very popular treatment center down here that keeps getting talked about. Bob Smith doesn't like them very much. But, someone reached out to me and was, like, telling me all about it, that it was just a horrible experience that they were having in this treatment center. And they were there for scholarship.
And when these people leave, they're in denial.
Yeah.
That's why they're leaving, because they're in denial.
Yeah. And
it's not because it's a crappy program.
I think part of it
Sometimes
was, I think this was
Sometimes they are.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about this program to say it was bad. And I think there definitely was some borderline personality traits going on there also. But I think, part of it, I think it was just so bad. And I don't know. You're right. Denial, though. I don't know. I mean, who knows what's going on there, though, to be honest.
But, there's just, I don't know all about the political side. I mean, you guys know more about it than I do. But, there's like this dirty little game that's going on with these, so-called halfway houses and the rehabs. And they're just too connected, and they're really feeding into each other. I don't really want to get into that because that's a very, very litigious area, I guess. And maybe Ehrenberg will start working on those areas, I mean, I
think he is.
Yeah, he is. I mean, we have people that are literally, sending their clients to these so-called halfway houses, and they're rotten places to live in, but they're getting a feeder. I mean, these places are, no, not all of them, but these places are in turn sending them over to those rehabs.
Yep.
They're not giving them a choice of where to go.
Right. They're saying this is their best fit because they're getting paid per person.
You want to live here? We're going to pay you rent until you get a job. You've got to go to X, Y, or Z rehab.
Right.
That's the place that we chose for you.
Right. Do you know, last year I saw people this guy walking down Lake Avenue with actual sandwich board on him with written. It wasn't even like a sandwich
for
board.
For treatment?
Yes.
What did it say?
I can't remember, but it was for treatment. Something about a halfway house. It was just as old, and it wasn't even like a professionally made sign. This was like a piece of cardboard with
Trying to solicit people
yes,
to go?
Yes.
That'll get me to go.
Yes.
Sure. It's like those ones that say,
Yeah.
sell me your home. You know,
Right
like
by-
they've got like a sign written in paint.
And it was right by Cultural Plaza, right downtown where the homeless people hang out.
Don't you love like during tax season, you see all those signs? It's like someone wrote with a Sharpie and just stuck it in the ground. It's like, we'll do your taxes.
I like the ones
Big
that
tax
dress up.
return. Oh,
Was
like
it-
yeah, like the like you on July 4th.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't. I mean, it is what it is, and I think eventually the industry is going to be cleaned up if we're not all put out of business. All the good guys aren't put out of business by the unscrupulous actors out there.
Well, you raised the question, I think, last week is like, who are these people that are running these facilities?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are they clinical people? Are they just business people? I mean, it's okay to have a business person as long as you have a clinical person
Yeah.
who's educated enough to know how to run a program.
Who's making the clinical decisions?
Exactly. But when you have a business owner that's making clinical decisions, and when you have business people that are sitting in clinical meetings discussing clients,
Right.
then maybe there's a
A
problem.
little scary. Even if they mean well, it's like they still don't understand the ethics that the clinical team has to go through, the ethical courses they have to go through. They don't understand what a patient truly needs. I mean, maybe they mean well, but it's still, their opinion shouldn't be in a clinical meeting.
No, that's a business decision.
Right.
But what happens is they're going into clinical meetings. I've seen it. I've experienced it. Where they're going to clinical meetings and they're saying, well, you know, like Bobby, for example, like let's give him a second chance, you know, because they know that he's got the insurance.
Yeah,
We're going to
yeah.
burn up his insurance. We're going to keep him there for 90 days. We made our money. Come on. I mean, we need to, it's about the numbers. And
If you
when-
want to pick out the color of the drapes, that's fine, but stay out of the clinical meetings.
Exactly. But the reality is it doesn't always happen.
For the most part, it's not happening.
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
part of the big problem.
Yeah. But I agree with Lisa. I mean, there are some very, very good programs out there. But the thing is,
Absolutely.
like, if your statistic is correct, because I've heard the same, 400, programs down here, and if like approximately 100 of them are good, that's 25%. That means 75% of the programs here are like subpar.
And we use the term programs, though, very loosely. I mean, that also includes the halfway houses, all of the IOPs all over the place. So a lot of them, yeah, I would say most of them are subpar. So, all right, well, guys, I want to say, Irving, thank you very much for
My
coming
pleasure.
back. And it's always nice having you here, man.
Same here.